Welcome back to Watch the Bookerman and to episode number 32 of Paul Heyman's TNA 2010. This is the go-home show to Victory Road, the episode that will feature the final of the Road to Victory tournament. Last week, Jeff Hardy defeated Abyss by countout, and in the opening match of the night, Robert Roode also advanced to the final, defeating Alex Shelley, clean as a whistle. We are back in the Impact Zone for this final show before the pay-per-view, so let's get into it. And we begin with a recap of the tournament so far, showing the two men's paths to the final. Obviously, I've addressed the semi-finals already, but Robert Roode received a bye in the first round before defeating Alex Shelley. Jeff Hardy beat Shelley's partner Chris Sabin in the first round before going on to defeat Abyss via countout during last week's main event. Following the match, Robert Roode watched as Abyss attacked Jeff Hardy, hurting his opponent's already injured back ahead of this very important match. As announced last week, the final of the Road to Victory tournament will open this week's episode of Impact. And on that note, we go into the tournament final, and it is Jeff Hardy who wins the Road to Victory. He was probably the favourite going into it, but with great heat and good wrestling, this is a really good way to kick off the in-ring action on the night with a 75. We let them go 19 minutes and 27. I'm pretty sure that is by a considerable distance the longest Impact match that we've done so far. But with it being a tournament final, and we want to sell the effects of fatigue with Jeff Hardy going into this match, having wrestled 3 matches in 3 weeks, the road agent notes were for us to have a storytelling match. I wanted it to be back and forth. I wanted to get a lot of heat on Robert Roode and hopefully try and help him shine as a singles competitor. With a 62, he's done okay. Not much progress throughout the month, but he is defeated by Jeff Hardy, and James Storm is back pretty soon, so it shouldn't be much of an issue, and that is a fantastic segment to follow up. Despite the commentary letting us down, Jeff and Kurt Angle seems to be money. An exhausted Jeff Hardy has his arm raised in victory, having won the Road to Victory tournament. There's no trophy as such, but he becomes the number 1 contender for this Sunday. While Jeff Hardy recovers from the long taxing contest, Kurt Angle comes down to the ring and he offers his hand to Jeff Hardy, who accepts. Kurt says that it's been a long time since they went one-on-one. In fact, it's been 9 years. Kurt won that match, but Jeff says that a lot has changed in that time. Kurt Angle agrees, saying that he's got better. He's more ruthless, more aggressive, and he is even harder to beat now. Jeff is quite preoccupied with his current pain from the match he's just been in, but remains pretty laid back about the prospect of facing Kurt Angle on Sunday. He says that there is no one tougher to face on this planet than the current World Heavyweight Champion, but he is used to working through pain, and he'll see Kurt on Sunday, and he's coming for the title. So a fairly straightforward segment, but definitely gains a huge amount of heat to the Road to Victory Road storyline. Of course, getting the crowd hotter as Kurt Angle improvises well. Returning from the break after that segment, we get an okay segment. It's a bit of a come down from that excellent 94 rating, but we get an on-location segment presented by Bad Influence. Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian and Matt Morgan show viewers around the childhood home of Hernandez, mocking him, his family and the place that he grew up. Christopher Daniels leads the cameras to a room where an overweight couple dressed in dirty clothes sit watching TV. We're really trying to get Bad Influence to push all of Hernandez's buttons here. He claims that these are the parents of Hernandez, and when they mumble a few words to him, kind of indecipherable, Daniels throws a few dollars at them and tells them to shut up. The idea here is that Kazarian, Morgan and Daniels have found some poor family and are paying them to pretend to be Hernandez's family just so that they can mock him even more. They want to end his career, but before then, they want to mock the upbringing of him and the fact that these are the people that he claims to fight for. Matt Morgan ends the segment saying that Hernandez brings shame upon his people, and this time next week, Morgan is going to end his career and send him back to this dump that he was brought up in. Morgan says that will be a blessed relief from the shame that Hernandez brings upon his family every time he steps out on national TV. So we really want Bad Influence to go lower than they've ever gone before. A really sort of distasteful segment is the idea in a way, not to a point that it's crossing any boundaries, that it's going to turn people off watching the show, but the idea that this is even more personal than it's ever been. And back to the live show, we go straight into the reaction from Hernandez. Having watched the segment while stood beside Jeremy Borash, JB asks questions to Hernandez, but he just stays quiet and looks so angry. Jeremy Borash does call out the actions of Bad Influence, calling him disgusting, but he does press Hernandez for his reaction. Hernandez, still too angry to respond, instead turns to JB. He's not doing this as part of the interview, but he's questioning, is this what TNA endorses? He's disgusted that they've even aired that crap, and they've dragged Hernandez out here to get his reaction. They've forced him to watch that. He feels like TNA are trying to exploit him a little bit. He's clearly pissed off at everybody, not just Bad Influence, but the people who filmed it, the people who agreed to air that. He's annoyed about everything in the company at the minute, and that's why he was willing to put his spot on the line. He's got nothing to lose anymore. Everything around him is falling apart, and he says that he's sure that a bunch of people at home found that funny, and he's sure they believe that's what Hernandez represents. But next week, he is going to show everybody exactly what he is about. He's going nowhere, because next week, he's going to beat Matt Morgan to within an inch of his life, and then he's going to keep on going. So he wanted a fired up promo from Hernandez immediately after that segment mocking him. It's a 66 rating, so decent, advancing the storyline. But this will not be a match on Victory Road. It seems like the final match between Hernandez and Matt Morgan should, of course, be on the pay-per-view. But Matt Morgan in storyline decided that he publicly wants to humiliate Hernandez. And there is a reason why it'll be on Impact that will become clear when it does air on next week's Impact. The show after the pay-per-view will see Hernandez v Morgan. If Morgan wins, Hernandez is gone from TNA. So both women being off the game here in what is still a decent match. ODB was at ringside for Lacey Von Erich, but it's a very one-sided squash match. Tara defeats Lacey Von Erich in 2 minutes and 4 seconds with a Widow's Peak, just further putting over that she is 100% laser focused on this Knockouts Championship match on Sunday. She'll get her rematch against Madison Rayne, and after the match, while Tara stands tall, the commentator is putting over the match against Madison Rayne on Sunday. We see that Rayne refuses to come out from the back. As soon as the match is over, she appears on the screen, but she says she is not coming anywhere near Tara after she Widow's peaked her last week. Madison Rayne calls herself the Queen of the Mountain and says that the Knockouts Championship belongs to her. Tara calls on Madison to come down to the ring, but she refuses. Rayne says that Tara is a relic from a bygone era of wrestling, but her reign is only just beginning. The Queen has a lot of power and a lot of influence over what happens in TNA, and Tara will see that up close and personal this Sunday. So while not necessarily a huge segment, it is a decent rating of 58 for this storyline to advance. It doesn't gain or lose heat to it, and it is just a rematch. There's not that deep of a storyline going into this, other than Madison Rayne seeing herself as the new face of the Knockouts kind of thing, calling herself the Queen of the Mountain, and saying that Tara's time has passed her by. Ahead of the third match of the night, Mauro and Taz look back to last week's Explosion, where Roderick Strong defeated Big Rob Terry in an impressive return to form for him. He'd struggled over the last few weeks, but he did pick up a win over the hugely intimidating Rob Terry. Following the match, Roderick Strong cut a promo about how he's had people's back since he came to TNA, name-dropping Kurt Angle and Okada, but saying that that has got him nowhere. From now on, Strong claims that he's only focused on himself, and this Sunday, the X Division Championship. He wants to get that back. But despite his proclamation of independence, Roderick Strong was approached by Mick Foley and Jimmy Jacobs after the match, who looked to recruit him into the new age. This is a potentially appealing offer given his recent struggles, but given his words beforehand, Roderick Strong unlikely to accept that. Before the scheduled third match, the camera cuts to the back as we look to follow an ongoing incident. We soon see that Jeff Hardy has once again been attacked by the monster Abyss. Another difficult situation. He was attacked after the semi-final. He's just been through a long, grueling match, and now he's being attacked backstage. Jeff Hardy is down on the ground. He's been completely blindsided by the monster. Abyss clearly hasn't forgotten about last week's defeat and throws a heavy piece of equipment on top of Jeff Hardy with a World Heavyweight Championship challenge in 3 nights' time. Things are going from bad to worse for Jeff Hardy. The odds definitely stacked against him for the World Heavyweight Championship match. We then get a average match, decent reaction but subpar wrestling from Roderick Strong and Austin Creed. Strong does defeat Jay Lethal's partner in 10 minutes and 7 seconds with a sick kick. It's a 51 from Roderick Strong, a 44 from Creed, so not really a great match. Jimmy Jacobs and Mick Foley are then quickly out following Roderick Strong's victory, continuing their courtship of the former X Division champion. They clearly want to get him on side before Victory Road. Mick and Jimmy join Roddy in the ring, looking for an indication that he will accept the offer. Before long, however, Jay Lethal comes down to the ring, joined by Maria Kanellis, who is seemingly his girlfriend now. Jay Lethal holds both of his titles and asks for a microphone. we're still seeing this confident air from Jay Lethal that has developed since he became the double champion. Completely understandable. If you've got 2 of the 4 titles that you can possibly have in the company, you're going to grow in confidence, to say the least. However, before he opens his mouth, Roderick Strong leaves the ring and heads up the ramp. He's not getting caught in between Jay Lethal and Mick Foley and Jimmy Jacobs. Strong wants 0 distractions going into this match against Lethal this Sunday, but Jay does have a warning to Jimmy Jacobs and Mick Foley. If they get involved this Sunday, he is going to make them pay for it. Lethal and Maria then leave. Jay Lethal not doing well without a script to follow, but it does end the first hour with an okay segment, and good news, it does gain heat to the Roderick Strong Jay Lethal storyline. And we return to the second hour with another brilliant segment. I may be forgetting something here, but I think we've just had our 2 best segments on the same show. I don't know what's changed tonight. Even if this main event that I've got doesn't deliver, this is still going to be a very strong show, I think, and a brilliant way to build heat to some of these storylines going into the pay-per-view. Jimmy Jacobs and Mick Foley, we see, have remained in the ring, and Mick Foley is holding a microphone, the newest member of the New Age. He's finally going to expand on his decision to join the group, thanking Paul Heyman for opening his eyes and making it possible. When the boss spoke to him, he spoke about embracing the future, and that's exactly what Mick is doing. Whether people like it or not, whether people understand Jimmy Jacobs' ideas or not, all Mick knows is that his leader has his finger exactly on the pulse of pro wrestling, and Jacobs has brought him into the fold. He's explained Project 10 to him, and Mick is convinced, he's sold on the vision. Change is coming to pro wrestling, and he is just happy to be on the right side of history. Mick says that Heyman wanted him to bring all his experience and his knowledge to the new generation of talent, but he wanted him as the Commissioner of Explosion. Jimmy told him to take everything that he thought he knew and to rip it up and throw it away. So Foley did just that. He has 100% faith in the teachings of Jimmy Jacobs, and now he has seen the future. Jimmy Jacobs will lead us into the new age. So Mick Foley, obviously superb, working without a script given the rating of the segment, even the commentary helping us though, and we want Mick here to channel the stuff when he was with Edge and when he was being a bit of a suck up. He had some segments against Paul Heyman during that time. I think it was like 2007. Well, yeah, it was for One Night Stand 2006, I'm pretty sure. He was going against ECW and he was the co-hardcore champion with Edge, and he had a really smarmy, heelish character that really suited him well, and that's what we want to tap into as he joins up with Jimmy Jacobs. And obviously bear in mind where the New Age's segments were, whether you agree with Mick Foley being in the group or not. Going from having 35 rated segments to 90 rated segments shows exactly what he's done to this group, and given the lack of momentum that the New Age had been building, I think we definitely needed that. Heading into the doctor's room, Kurt Angle checks on Jeff Hardy in the back. Having heard about Abyss's attack on him earlier in the night, Kurt is furious about Abyss's actions, and while Jeff Hardy has little to say, he's more focused on the fact he's in severe pain and may not even be cleared to compete on Sunday. I'm not cancelling the match, don't worry, but of course at this point there would be those question marks. Kurt Angle tells him that he is going to call Abyss out later in the ring tonight. Kurt then leaves the room. Jeff doesn't look particularly impressed with the World Heavyweight Champion's interjection. He doesn't feel that he needs him to get involved, and we do lose heat to what had been built up as a great storyline, but not too bothered about that because we do have another segment which I hope can get a decent rating. But Kurt Angle seemingly sticking his nose in Jeff Hardy's other business. Returning to ringside, we see that Mick Foley and Jimmy Jacobs are yet to leave the area in what is a poor segment. It just shows the swing that we have when Mick Foley has to be involved with the rest of the members. Hopefully he will help build them up over time, but a 47 compared to a 90 is quite a drastic drop off. But Jacobs and Foley have been confronted by Awesome Kong and Hamada. Coming from behind, Alyssa Flash and Mischief lay their titles down and begin to brawl with their Victory Road opponents. As the fight continues, Kong and Hamada get the better of Flash and Mischief and take 2 tables from underneath the ring. This Sunday, it will be a tables match for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships as they set up to put Flash and Mischief through. Jimmy Jacobs and Foley help them escape. Alyssa Flash, Mischief and Mick Foley then begin to back up the ramp before looking to each other and realising that Jimmy Jacobs is not with them, having been caught by Hamada and dragged back into the ring. Jacobs struggles, but he cannot escape. Hitting a powerbomb assisted by Hamada, Kong finally puts Jimmy Jacobs through a table like she tried to on that first episode of Explosion. At Slammiversary, Jacobs was responsible for Kong going through a table. She's got some revenge on him. They stare down the rest of the New Age. The true revenge will come this Sunday at Victory Road as they look to regain the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Alyssa Flash retrieves Jimmy Jacobs' carcass once he rolls out of the ring, and the group back up the ramp. A message well and truly sent, and while Mick Foley looks good in the segment, it isn't the best way to have the final build to this match. We then go into the fourth match of the night, and Mr. Anderson defeats Shark Boy in 6 minutes and 44. Before the match, Anderson, during his entrance, he doesn't cut the usual promo because his idea and the body language he gives off is that this is going to be a quick in and out job. So when Shark Boy actually gives him a bit of a fight and Anderson actually has to poke him in the eye before hitting a mic drop to pick up the win in 6 minutes 44, Anderson's pretty annoyed about that. He does drag Shark Boy to a decent match despite it being a big opportunity for Shark Boy. He was off his game. It won't be the pay-per-view match, of course, but having refused to speak pre-match, feeling the match would be a quick pushover, Mr. Anderson signals for the mic to be dropped post-match. He isn't happy with how difficult he found the challenge of Shark Boy. Of course, he's been mocking him for weeks, but when it came to them having another one-on-one match, he actually got tested a little bit. Shark Boy almost hitting a stunner in the match, different things, a couple of near falls probably just to try and build that drama of a potential upset, and Anderson begins to berate his rival as he looks to continue beating Shark Boy down after the match. Eric Young makes his TNA return, last seen disbanding the World Elite, or if you're one of those conspiracy theorists who believes that he's Super Eric, he was seen helping Shark Boy at Slammiversary. But Eric Young has grown out his beard and hair, but looks just as, if not more, unhinged than ever. Eric Young confronts Mr. Anderson, a brave person really stepping up to Anderson, knowing that he has both Sean Bashir and Big Rob Terry to call upon. Anderson asks him where his cape and mask is, but EY looks confused before going on to explain where he has been. He has no long-winded answer, no real explanation. He's just been sat at home, reflecting and thinking about the last year of his career. EY is here to apologise to the fans and to admit that he was wrong about America. He thought that everybody in this country were jerks like Anderson, but he was wrong. Anderson is pretty dismissive of EY until he is challenged to a match. EY says that it's not going to be easy to win people round after what he's done in this last year, but he's going to start at Victory Road when he puts Mr. Anderson in his place. So we're beginning the face turn. I could change him now, but it won't have had much build-up, and I do think that we need a bit of a redemption story for EY. I could have just brought him back in and he's a face now, but the fact that he had this World Elite storyline, I don't just want to drop that and forget about it, so we are going to do a bit more build into that. But EY, as Eric Young, makes his in-ring return this Sunday against Mr. Anderson, so we are going to continue to the next segment without addressing it. We're not turning him face just yet, and we get a disappointing segment actually going into the final build of Brian Kendrick and Paul London's match. Mike Tenay conducting a sit-down interview with Brian Kendrick and Paul London ahead of their one-on-one match at Victory Road. The winner of that match will become the number one contender to the World Heavyweight Championship as a result of Paul London's victory in the Tag Team Battle Royal at Slammiversary. Tenay looks to find any potential threads to pick out. He's clearly been asked to try and build some tension, but the two friends remain calm and united throughout. They say that a victory for one of them is a victory for both of them, and they'll find out who's most suitable to face Kurt Angle or Jeff Hardy when their match happens. It's as simple as that. Perhaps this is a clash of mentalities. Mike Tenay may be more old school, but he can't get his head around the lack of individualism from the pair, but they seem pretty laid back about everything. London tells Mike that since they came to TNA together and they won at Slammiversary together, then whoever wins at Victory Road, they will support each other in the pursuit of the World Heavyweight Championship. Kendrick closes by telling Mike that he might not have had many friends in his life, but this is what friends do for each other. Brian Kendrick and Paul London have each other's back no matter what, and that includes when they face each other this Sunday at Victory Road. I didn't script any of them. Unfortunately, I probably should have. It would have been a better segment, but the idea there is that I just wanted Brian Kendrick and Paul London to put in their own words that they have a slightly different mentality to most people in the company. They're not about stamping on each other to try and get ahead. They believe in themselves as a tag team, and it just so happens that one of them will face Kurt Angle, whichever one it is. They feel deserve it. Sarita makes her return to in-ring action before she faces Sara Del Rey this Sunday, and in 1 minute 23 defeats Boogie Nova with a double underhook powerbomb. It's not a great match, but Sarita puts in a decent performance, and after the match, a simple post-match segment as Sara Del Rey comes to the top of the ramp, Sarita having her arm raised in victory. Following a convincing win, Sarita receives a patronising round of applause from Sara Del Rey, who encourages the Impact Zone to join in. The two women stare each other down ahead of their match at Victory Road this Sunday. Very straightforward, and we get the promos between these two are absolutely terrible. You talk about the great segments that we've had on tonight's show, and then you see Shelley and Sabin just must have next to no mic skills in this mod. They're relatively popular, so I would hope they'd do better than this. But before the main event, Alex Shelley speaks with Chris Sabin about Desmond Wolfe. 2 weeks ago, Shelley defeated Wolfe in the Road to Victory tournament. Although there was a lot of shenanigans, he's still giving some pointers as how to deal with Wolfe's game plan, but he does warn him about how violent, destructive and dangerous Desmond Wolfe is. He says that Wolfe is going to be extra keen to prove his point before his huge match on Sunday, and Shelley thinks that Sabin can take advantage of that. Sabin thanks Shelley for the support, and the two agree that Alex should stay in the back tonight, giving Sabin the opportunity to prove himself on his own 2 feet. Shelley had the chance to do that the other week when he defeated Wolfe, so it's only fair that he gets this too. As promised earlier, and before the main event, we get another very strong segment, gaining more heat to the storyline, so definitely a good decision to put this segment in as well. Kurt Angle makes his way down to the ring, taking a microphone and calling out Abyss for the attack on Jeff Hardy earlier. He's sticking his nose in, and Abyss wastes no time in coming out from the back, but as the monster walks down the ramp, he is stopped in his tracks when a clearly hurt Jeff Hardy hobbles behind him, but does get his hands on him. Hardy rapidly attacks Abyss. There's very little refinement to his attack. He is just throwing punches until the monster turns around and grabs him by the neck. Jeff Hardy goes low with a kick between the legs of Abyss before hitting a twist of fate on the steel entrance ramp, taking Abyss down. Jeff Hardy hurt himself in the impact of this and has aggravated what was already a troublesome back, but he grabs a microphone from ringside. Hardy tells Kurt that he doesn't need his protection, he doesn't need his help, and he doesn't need his pity. Hardy has fought through pain like this before, and when he's walking through hell, Jeff Hardy keeps walking. He will come out the other end this Sunday at Victory Road because nothing will stop him from taking the fight to Kurt Angle. Jeff Hardy then leaves, having made it clear to Kurt Angle that he doesn't need his sympathy and he doesn't want him to fight his battles. A really good segment overall, with building the tension into the Kurt Angle-Jeff Hardy match. While they're both babyfaces and both of them, you can see where they're coming from. Kurt Angle doesn't want to face a weakened Jeff Hardy, but Jeff Hardy doesn't want to be patronised by Kurt Angle, who's coming out and saying, I'll sort out your Abyss problem for you. Jeff Hardy is more than capable of fighting his own battles, and one of those battles will be the World Heavyweight Championship match at Victory Road. So it is quite a disappointing main event. You could say with the other stuff we had on the show, we could have switched things around, but the sole purpose of this match essentially was to put over that Desmond Wolfe can win by stoppage. It's booking that I'm stealing, I suppose, from one of his matches with Bryan Danielson in Ring of Honor. It is just repeated elbow strikes to the head of Chris Sabin, and eventually the referee comes in. It's a fair match for maybe 7 or 8 minutes, but then Desmond Wolfe just switches into another gear, gets into the zone. He is so focused and he just destroys Chris Sabin to the point that he could have pinned him maybe after 9 minutes, but he decides to carry on until the referee has no choice but to step in, encouraged by Alex Shelley, who comes down concerned for his partner. If he had a towel, he probably would have thrown it in, but it's a decisive victory by stoppage in, again, a disappointing main event match. But with those earlier segments and with hopefully a decent post-match segment, we should still get a good show. It's an okay way to end the show. Alex Shelley checking on his partner on the outside, who is pretty much unconscious after the elbow strike attack from Desmond Wolfe. Joe comes down to the ring almost immediately after the bell, making a beeline for Desmond Wolfe. This Sunday will be the final showdown between the two men, and Joe looks to take advantage of one of the few opportunities he will get before then to get his hands on Desmond Wolfe. Looking to preview the pay-per-view, Samoa Joe attempts to lock in a Coquina clutch, having got the better of the earlier exchanges between the two men. However, in a repeat of Slammiversary, a boot between the legs is enough to release the hold. From here, Desmond Wolfe does get the better of his opponent, locking in a submission hold that has been rarely seen from him. Mauro Ranallo says that this move is known as the London Dungeon. It's a wrist lock kind. I'll hopefully be able to put something on the screen to show you the London Dungeon, but he has Joe exactly where he wants him. Both men are facing the hard cam and Wolf is rabid, foaming at the mouth, fired up and clearly ready for this Sunday. The commentator is suggesting this could be a preview of the finish to their match. Wolf ends the night standing tall after driving Samoa Joe's head into the canvas with his boot. Desmond Wolf definitely coming out of that segment and this night looking the better of the two, and it is a 79, so one of the better ever episodes of Impact that we've done, despite a poor main event, of course having a 90 rated segment and a 94 rated segment, as well as an 85 and some other really solid segments there. It was always going to be a very good show. Imagine if we'd have had a decent main event on there. If we'd have had a 75 rated main event, which isn't rare for us, that could have been a really good show, and it does give me hope going forward, as does the fact that we have struck gold with the show going into Victory Road. Hopefully that does have an effect on the buy rate. We've had pretty steady buy rates, not necessarily in a good way. Underwhelming for Explosion. I've been forgetting to put this on screen the last couple of weeks, so that's the Explosion card. I will note that Jay Lethal defended his global championship because the idea was that it was a mandatory title defense. Bashir won a battle royal at a house show, we're going to say. Again, the TV ratings not doing particularly well for us, probably because Chris Sabin was in the main event and he seems to be... I'm going to actually look at what Shelley and Sabin's first popularity and then mic skills are. So Alex Shelley, I mean, they're not that terrible. Maybe Sabin's really bad. They're fairly average. I don't know why I get so hung up on... I suppose it's because I want them to be good and they're really not delivering just yet. I will have to, really, it's probably partly on me. But anyway, Victory Road in 2 days' time. Looking forward to that pay-per-view. Hopefully the build's been good. As always, I'll put the card on screen to end the episode. But I think we've put together another good show coming off the back of Slammiversary. And as the months go on, we are getting closer to Bound for Glory. And that means that things are going to heat up more and more. Definitely looking forward to this pay-per-view. Thanks for watching, and hopefully the pay-per-view will be coming pretty soon.